Namaskar. I am Sonam Singh and you are watching Organiser This Week, the show where we take you deep inside the biggest stories, ideas, debates and narratives covered in the latest edition of Organiser Weekly. This week's edition is one of the most politically explosive editions in recent times because the entire focus is on the 2026 Assembly election results. Elections that are not merely political verdicts but are the clear indicators of a much larger ideological and civilizational shift taking place across Bharat. The central claim of this edition is very clear. Voters across different parts of the country have rejected appeasement politics, anti-Hindu narrative, corruption, political violence and ideological hypocrisy. From Bengal to Assam, from Tamil Nadu to Kerala, this edition shows that people are increasingly voting for identity, dignity, development and civilizational confidence. And today, we are going to unpack every major covered story in this issue. So, let us begin with the editorial. Editor Prafulla Ketkar's editorial is perhaps one of the strongest ideological pieces published after these election results. The editorial begins by recalling how The Guardian had described Narendra Modi's 2014 victory as another tryst with destiny. But according to the editorial, what had happened in 2026 goes even further. The BJP has not only retained Assam but has decisively defeated Mamata Banerjee in Bengal, expanded in Kerala and disrupted traditional political structures in Tamil Nadu. The editorial frames Bengal not just as an electoral victory but as a civilizational battle. It traces Bengal's political history from partition politics, Muslim League influence and the weakening of nationalist forces to communist rule, illegal infiltration and the appeasement politics of TMC. The editorial argues that Bengal suffered both culturally and politically because successive governments either ignored or encouraged demographic changes and vote bank politics. According to the piece, the BJP's victory is being interpreted not merely as a party success but as an attempt to reclaim Bengal's civilizational identity. The editorial also strongly criticizes Congress and the left politics, saying that Congress has increasingly dependent on Muslim consolidation while simultaneously embracing ultra-left ideological positions. Another important point raised is the decline of what the editorial calls the Muslim veto in Indian politics. It argues that Hindu cultural awakening and greater civilizational confidence are reducing the effectiveness of appeasement politics. But perhaps the biggest argument in the editorial is about decolonization. It says that the battle today is not just electoral but intellectual and also cultural. The editorial calls for freeing Bharat from colonial mindsets, institutions and narratives. According to the article, May 4, 2026, the day of these election results will be remembered as another milestone in Bharat's long civilizational journey. The main analytical piece in this edition is written by senior columnist Ratan Shardaji. The article argues that the 2026 Assembly elections have delivered one clear message that no political party can continuously attack Hindu identity and still expect to win elections in Bharat. The piece says that many so-called secular parties cross the line from minority outreach into open Hinduphobia and anti-Sanatan politics. According to him, voters eventually responded against this approach. One major theme repeatedly highlighted is Hindu consolidation. The article says that despite caste divisions and regional identities, Hindus tend to unite whenever they perceive a threat to their civilizational or religious identity. The writer points out towards Bengal, Assam, Tamil Nadu and Puducherry as examples where voters rejected anti-Hindu narratives. The article also says that welfare schemes alone are not enough anymore. Voters now seek dignity, security and good governance along with economic support. An important observation made by Ratan Shardaji in this piece is regarding women voters. According to him, Bengal and Tamil Nadu demonstrated that women increasingly prioritize safety and dignity over any kind of cash, benefits and freebies. The article also attacks what it calls social media Hindutva, arguing that online activism alone cannot replace long-term grassroots organizational work. It praises both RSS and BJP workers for years of patient cadre building, ideological outreach and local engagement. The article by Ratan Shardaji ends with a very significant line that successful politics in Bharat cannot merely focus on winning elections. It must aim at nation building and civilizational continuity. The second story in this issue is perhaps the biggest and most detailed report in the entire issue. written by Nishant Kumar Azad and Ravi Mishra from Kolkata. The piece is a ground report documenting the atmosphere across Bengal during and after the polls. The title itself is symbolic. The article argues that Bengal's voters were silent not because they supported the regime, but because they were afraid. And when voting day arrived, that silence transformed into a political revolution. The report repeatedly described this election as a fight for identity, cultural survival and dignity. The article revisits several major controversies from recent years: the post-poll violence of 2021, Sarsanghchalak violence, Murshidabad tensions, attack on Hindu festivals, syndicate Raj, corruption scandals and women's safety issues. One of the most striking sections discusses the syndicate Raj. The reporters narrate conversations with street vendors and local residents who faced extortion and political intimidation for years. The article also says that many ordinary Bengalis viewed the election as a final opportunity to escape fear and coercion. Another major theme is corruption. The report mentions Narada scam, Sarda scam, teacher recruitment scam, and corruption in governance structures of TMC. But the report also says that the larger issue was not merely corruption itself, it was the absence of development, and despite being years in power, no development happened. A very important section focuses on women's voters. According to the report, Mamata Banerjee's welfare schemes initially helped her build a strong female support base, but this election witnessed a shift. The article argues that the incidents like Sarsanghchalak, Arjikar hospital controversy, and concerns about law and order created a lot of anger among women voters. One woman interviewed in the report says that what is the point of money if I don't feel safe? That line becomes symbolic throughout the article. The report argues that dignity and safety eventually became more important than direct welfare benefits. The report then dedicates an entire section to Hindu consolidation. It says that repeated communal tensions, attacks on festivals, and perceptions of appeasement politics pushed Hindu voters towards the BJP. The article also uses the phrase civilisational battle multiple times. It argues that many voters believed political change was necessary to protect cultural identity and social confidence of Bengalis. The report also highlights how even some traditional TMC supporters privately admitted frustration with appeasement politics. Another fascinating section analyzes Bengal's educated middle class, the so-called Bhadralok. For years, political observers argued that Bengal's intellectual and urban middle class society would never embrace the BJP. But according to this report, that changed in these elections. The BJP's victories in multiple Kolkata region seats are presented as evidence of a broader psychological shift. The article also says that educated urban voters increasingly linked BJP governance in other states with development, infrastructure and opportunity. The report then further discusses the deployment of central security forces. According to the article, the presence of forces gave many voters the confidence to vote freely without fear of intimidation or fake voting practices. The article repeatedly uses local election-related terms like chapa voting to describe alleged booth capturing and fake voting. The Election Commission's stricter monitoring measures are portrayed as key to ensuring higher voting confidence. But one of the most politically important sections analyzes SC/ST voting patterns. The report says that the BJP made a massive gains among the Matua voters, the tribal communities and reserved constituencies. The article particularly highlights Jagmahal and border regions where tribal and SC communities shifted decisively towards the BJP. After that, the edition also carries the comments from BJP leader and newly elected MLA from the Rashbihari constituency, Swapan Das Gupta. Here, Das Gupta described the results as liberation for Bengal. According to him, the new government's biggest challenges will be restoring normalcy, ending syndicate politics, bringing investment back, and depoliticizing civil society. He also says that Mamata Banerjee made the mistake of turning elections into emotional identity battles while ignoring her own governance failure. Now moving to Assam, this section argues that BJP's third consecutive victory represents a complete consolidation of nationalist politics in the northeast. The article by Divya says BJP succeeded because it combined development, peace, infrastructure, Assamese identity and strong organizational work. The report also claims that voters rewarded the BJP for delivering stability after decades of uncertainty and insurgency-related politics. The article also connects Assam's verdict to border security concerns and demographic anxieties. One of the most interesting analysis in this edition focuses on Tamil Nadu. The article by T.S. Venkatesan argues that traditional Dravidian politics is facing fatigue. According to this report, corruption, dynastic politics, anti-Hindu rhetoric and anti-Delhi narratives are no longer enough to sustain public enthusiasm. The rise of Vijay Joseph is described as symbolic of a voter desire for alternatives beyond the traditional DMK-AIADMK framework. The report also says that Tamil Nadu voters increasingly see governance and opportunity rather than ideological confrontation. The Kerala section focuses on the weakening of left politics. The report by Lakshmi Ranjit argues that BJP's growing presence in Keralam is now becoming structurally significant. Even though BJP's seat tally remains limited, the article says BJP has finally entered the Lok Sabha, strengthened their local bodies and are increasingly making their vote share consistent. The report also says that communist politics is gradually losing emotional appeal among younger generations. Well, the Puducherry section is shorter but politically important. The article by T.S. Venkatesan says voters preferred stability and governance over coalition uncertainty. The verdict is presented as a part of a larger national trend favoring strong governance-oriented politics. Another important report covers RSS Sarsanghchalak Dr. Mohan Bhagwatji's Mysuru visit. The central message of this event highlighted here is that words and conduct should unite and not alienate. The article focuses on social harmony, dialogue and cultural unity. It also connects RSS outreach to the broader centenary year messaging around social cohesion and national integrity. So overall, this edition of Organiser presents the 2026 Assembly elections not simply as electoral outcomes but as signs of a deeper ideological and civilizational transformation unfolding across Bharat. The recurring themes throughout the issues are rejection of appeasement politics, assertion of Hindu identity, governance over rhetoric, and dignity over freebies. Whether one agrees or disagrees with these arguments, one thing is certain that this edition attempts to frame this elections as a historic turning point in Bharat's political and civilizational journey. Well, this is all for today's episode of Organiser This Week. If you like this detailed breakdown, do like, share and subscribe to the Organiser channel. And also tell us in the comment section which story in this edition did you find most significant. Thank you so much for watching.